Here, Hunter. We'll take it from here.
You guys do your thing. Let's go. We have our own job to do.
Why did it attack us? Give me my village back!
You heard it up top. We're about to head out into the wilderness to pick our supplies, craft our items, load up our weapons, sharpen them too, because we're going on a hunt. That's right, we're hunting monsters. Monster Hunter, talking Monster Hunter Wilds, the new video game here on Normies Like Us with your hosts, Kitty Cat Colin.
Micah Co.
This is Monster Hunter Jacob. As of course, I know all the character names in the franchise, and so many to choose from. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not even going to mention them because I know so many of them.
Well,
Day
we're out of
5,
time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Monster and Monster 2. But no, I'm excited about this, Colin. We're returning to a format that we've done a couple times intermittently in the past, but it is March Madness, where we each pick any topic. Each host gets a week to pick whatever they want.
Wow.
And we talk about that thing. So this is your pick, right, Colin?
It is. Do you guys remember any of the prior picks you guys did? I chose the year 1998 one time. That's the only thing
That's
I
right.
can remember.
I need to do this research maybe before we start recording.
Yeah. I remember Joe doing an episode on Fortnite.
That's
and at the
right.
time, I was like, Fortnite. And I really kind of blew it off. And then only after that episode, I did get into Fortnite. And I was completely wrong about it. I take back everything I said negative about it. So,
That's
March
funny.
Madness can be good. You can learn about new things.
Yeah, that's the power of these episodes. I love to hear that.
That's right. And it is March. Happy March to you all. Happy Madness.
Mm-hmm.
Fill out those brackets if you participate in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time finding mine, but by the end of the episode, I'll know what other ones I've picked. But it's always fun to do these. Monster Hunter, obviously, award-winning series. But before we get into it, I wanted to maybe touch base on some other awards that we chatted about last week, because we have the results are in for the Academy Awards, if there's any highlights or lowlights.
The
Anora
Academy
heads.
Awards. Jacob handed out
Wow.
all the awards to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Anora heads were up big today.
Yes.
Brutalist heads, I'm sorry. Try again next year. Conclave heads, better luck next time. Amelia Perez, I'm not even going to tell you what to do. But no, it was an interesting Oscars. I don't know if you guys watched the telecast. I mainly watched for my boy Conan O'Brien, who hosted and was very funny. And it was a pretty weak slate of movies this year overall, but Anora won Best Picture, of course, won a bunch of things. Sean Baker, the director, won for editing, writing, directing, and producing, all for the same movie.
Wow.
So he won 4 Oscars, which I believe has never been done before.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. And then Mikey Madsen with the best
Mikey
actress.
Madison, which
Mikey
is
Madison,
a surprise. Demi Moore was considered the favorite going into it for the substance. So that's a bit of a surprise, but I did like that. And then Adrian Brody, Best Actor for The Brutalist over Chalamet and Ralph Fiennes. And
Very surprising.
Yeah. And I still haven't seen The Brutalist, but maybe I'll get around to it. We all liked Anora, so I'm happy that won 5 awards. My big headline is another snub for Planet of the Apes. Jacob, you kind of predicted that Dune would take it away, and they did it again.
Look,
Damn.
I'm sorry to the apes. They never really had a chance with Dune Part 2 coming out the same year.
They didn't know what hit them, yeah.
Dune, what's interesting is obviously Dune Part 1 won visual effects and some other awards, including cinematography. This year, The Brutalist took cinematography over Dune Part 2. So Dune Part 2 actually won less Oscars than Dune Part 1.
Wow.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think it's a better movie overall. So interesting.
I think, personally, obviously, if you listen to our top 10 films of the year episode, it was my number 1 film of the year. It was my favorite of all the Best Picture nominations. I think it was sort of crippled by when it came out, right? It released a year ago, basically today. It came out in early March. And I think if it came out in November, it would have had a lot more momentum going into awards season. But it was
Yeah.
kind of forgotten about, and some other other ones kind of took. I'm surprised though, like a big epic like that. I mean, I know that the Academy doesn't really mess with sci-fi and genre too much, with some exceptions, but I thought it was sort of a Return of the King, like it would have that kind of momentum, but wasn't to be.
Yeah, but we'll see if when we get around to the third one that they're doing, that's
Yes.
the Return of the King. And Furiosa suffered from the same thing. I felt like it came out too early last year, and it got totally blown off.
Yeah, it
for
got
awards,
totally
basically.
snubbed. No awards at all. No nominations at all. And same for Challengers, which I was very surprised that it got no nominations. Not even a best score for Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. Yeah, a weird year overall. But Colin, any thoughts on last night?
Do you think Jenna Ortega fired her agent for not being the first cast member from Scream to win an Academy Award? Do you think she's furious at
wow.
Mikey Madison?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, Mike Madison, first Ghostface killer to win an Oscar.
Spoilers. Yeah.
What?
Spoiler alert.
They're wearing flannel. Okay, keep an eye out for it.
Yeah, and I was talking about this in
right.
our group chat last night about Quentin Tarantino. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the casting of that movie, the casting of the Manson family in that movie was insane. Like he was really cooking with that. Austin Butler, Mikey Madison, Sydney Sweeney, Margaret Qualley, who obviously The Substance this year. I mean, just an insane run of actors. I'm even forgetting some, but this is kind of all before they broke out.
Not to interrupt you, but the big one you're forgetting, which made me laugh the hardest, which is the reason I have to bring it up. The picture you shared showed all these actors and then the iconic characters they play. Yeah. Maya Hawke as Anxiety or something from the Inside Out.
Yeah. Well, the image I had, the image they made. I got the image from the internet, and it said like it was a big year for the Manson family.
I guess those
so it was
all
all
were the
things
same
from the past
year.
year. Yeah.
Fuck.
Wow.
You had The Substance. You had Austin Butler, Dune Part 2.
Bike
so,
Rider.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I mean, crazy. I mean, Tarantino. He was really cooking with that casting. But look, Mikey Madison.
Like Nepo babies. Those are mainly Nepo babies.
Well, yes, some of them. I mean, Maya Hawke and Margaret Qualley, yes, but Sydney Sweeney, kind of a not a Nepo baby at all, came out of nowhere, and Mikey Madison. So pretty prescient, really, because I mean, Mikey Madison, when I saw her in Scream, I was not thinking future Oscar winner. I mean, I thought she was good, but no, I mean, Honora, I mean, it was a really star turn for her. So good job to her. Good job to Sean Baker. Somewhat controversial, I guess, online right now. But you know what? I like Sean Baker. I like his movies. The Florida Project. He's been doing independent film for a long time. So it was a big win for independent film and a big win for Neon, sort of a competitor to A24.
Yeah.
And Colin, you might know a little about this, but his last movie, Red Rocket, was released on A24. And I guess they sort of just buried it, didn't promote it that well. It got nothing. He goes over to Neon with Honora, wins Best Picture. So A24, you got to step up your game.
That's true. They got their share of shout outs from Adrian Brody. Like A24 and Neon. Look at that.
Right, the Brutalist.
More independent film distributors. Yeah. That's good to see.
But Palme d'Or, Cannes Film Festival, Honora won Palme d'Or, and it was the first time in 50 years, I believe, that the Palme d'Or winner won Best Picture. Isn't that crazy? Oh, I'm sorry. It happened 2 times in the last couple of years with Parasite and now Honora. So, but only 2 times in the last 50 years.
That's wild.
In our little mock kind of guesses that we did between ourselves, I bet pretty big on Brutalist, a film that I had not even seen. I just kind of felt
it had that
was
energy.
Big enough that, and it being a period piece, Holocaust stuff, it seemed to tick a lot of boxes that the Academy liked. Now, Mike, I don't know if you know this or care about this, but Jacob, I'm sure you do because you're much more well-informed than I am. Brady Corbett, the director of that film, are you just kind of like aware of that guy and sort of like who he is and was?
Not too much.
He was an actor. He's the other guy with Michael Pitt in the Funny Games, Michael Haneke American remake. He's like a super handsome young kid.
Yeah. I know he's kind of as a filmmaker, he's sort of a Paul Thomas Anderson wannabe, very inspired by Paul Thomas Anderson type films, and that's what The Brutalist feels like. I think its problem is it was too long. Academy voters weren't finishing it because it was so long. I mean, it's 3.5 hours long. So it feels like an Oscar type movie, but even the Oscar voters were like, I don't have time for this. But it,
Intermission.
Brutal
Yeah.
sit.
No.
I do know. So it won Best Score, and the guy that did the score is the former frontman of a band that I liked a lot in the 2010s called Yuck. So a very funny crossover there, where it's like an
Whoa.
indie alternative band, and now he's doing the score for The Brutalist and won an Oscar. So
That's crazy.
very random stuff there, but overall, yeah, Anora, I thought in a weak year, it was I was feeling pretty good with my predictions of an Anora. There was a lot of momentum behind it. It was an open race for a while. There were some different controversies with some of the Best Picture nominations, like Amelia Perez, like The Brutalist, which used AI, and people were frowned upon that. And so Anora kind of took the lead because every other front runner was having some kind of controversy. So here comes Anora, this nice little movie about a sex worker and who marries this Russian kid, and it wins the big prize. So interesting year. I don't know how it will be remembered, legacy style, but it's definitely better than the Green Books and the codas of those both won Best Picture, and I would put it above those movies. Not quite a Parasite level for me, or an Oppenheimer level, but still not bad.
No, it's a movie I'm glad that I watched it before the Oscar. Like, I'm glad I watched it before, it got its flowers and was kind of championing it. I think it's a good little movie.
Yeah, I saw it in theaters on New Year's Eve, had a great time. And out of all the movies, I mean, Dune Part 2 was my first choice, but out of all the movies that had a chance to win, Anora was my second choice, so I'm glad it won.
Yeah. So good for them. Again, independent movie, didn't have a huge budget, just good script, good acting, and good stuff. Sometimes if you have the right ingredients, you find success, and that seems to be what Capcom has done with this Monster Hunter franchise to bring us back around. I did a little bit of research before this. I got Monster Hunter Wild. I had no previous experience, just to say, but Colin, this is Capcom's most lucrative franchise. Is that true?
I love to hear that. That's a shocking thing to me. I'd be curious about everybody's histories. Jacob, obviously, yours is slim. It's seeming like you were
Well,
making fun about
I'm
not knowing any
kind
of
of
the
an
characters.
expert on Monster Hunter,
Oh,
but I've
okay,
never
great.
played it before.
In an
But everything
academic sense. Yeah, he knows.
yeah, everything I know about Monster Hunter comes from watching people play Monster Hunter.
Mhm.
And so, I watched Mike play a little bit in the past week, and I used to watch our friend of the pod, Ex Kaida, who loves Monster Hunter, and he used to play Monster Hunter World all the time, and so I watched him play that sometimes.
Sure.
So I do feel like I know a lot about it just from watching it, but I've never actually played it. But you know what? I get the gist of it.
I'm sure it's
in
very
the title.
self-explanatory, and I promise
Yeah.
it's not very complicated. My grand thesis and why I chose this as my March Madness topic, despite it being a franchise I've played since the very beginning. I played the first game in 2004 when I was 15 years old, and I've played almost every game since then. And in fact, I took a look at one of the mobile games that I have on the 3DS. 170 hours. Like it's also a franchise I'm willing to just dump time and time and time into because it is a very grindy game. But I guess I wanted to explore the idea of, is this a known popular franchise? We just talked movies. This is a film or a game that has a film, has a movie. It's been included in things like Marvel vs. Capcom, where you could play a hunter character. Jacob, you laughed and said, the character names really aren't character names. It's just a generic sort of character thing that we'll talk about, character creation, that whole process. And Mike, you just elucidated to us that it's the highest selling franchise for a video game company that's been around almost since the very beginning. And yet, I would ask, is this a known or popular franchise?
Well, that is surprising to me because it does feel a bit more niche. I think it's popular, but it is a bit more niche. Like it's less normie, more niche to me.
So, in what my research dug up is that it's hugely popular in Japan. And, in my visits to
Yes.
Japan, I see tons of Monster Hunter stuff in public. There's Monster Hunter cafes. So the core install base is Japan. There's a lot of
Right.
support, and probably other regions in Asia, but Japan loves it. I think World um, was the first game that kind of blew up here for the general public. It was always niche. World really kind of widened the net. And then this game has really been, from my understanding, it's the most accessible one. So this is getting a lot of players. There was like 800,000 um, people playing at the same time on Steam or something on opening weekend.
Wow.
So I think it's starting to finally get, at least in the West, the kind of praise that it's been
Right.
getting in Japan. So it's an interesting
I'm just
question.
waiting for everyone to get over the newness of it and come back to Marvel Rivals, where I know you want to come back. But
Yeah, don't tell
Bitter.
Marvel
So
Rivals. I
bitter.
found someone new.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. That it feels very Japanese, even like in the in-game, like the menus and stuff remind me of like a JRPG. You have like your little cat guy that follows you around. That feels like a very Japanese thing. And so it just feels like a game like that. Like even like Pokemon, like it feels like an adult version of Pokemon. Instead of catching them in Pokeballs, you're just like
Ooh, I
killing
like
them.
it. Yeah,
Right,
right.
that sounds good to me.
Yeah, Japanese. It is, obviously Capcom, and for it to be their number one franchise was surprising, just because you think of Resident Evil and Street Fighter and all this stuff
Yes.
that they've put out, and Monster Hunter dominates them all. So, um, I will just say at the top before we really get into it, like I'm a new fan of the series. This new game has turned me onto it, and I'm really excited to kind of go further in depth, Colin. So thanks for the recommendation. I probably wouldn't have gotten it if this wasn't on the episode slate, and I'm glad that I'm a hunter now.
I love to hear it. Let's dive into what you like about it, all that good stuff. Let's jump up right now. We've got our quest. Let's head out on the hunt. We're back here on Normies Like Us. We're talking Monster Hunter Wilds. We're going to talk the newest game in the franchise. We're going to kick things off sort of talking about the franchise itself, the ins and outs of just Monster Hunter. Now, Mike, you said you're a new convert to this very popular game series. Again, I mentioned it started in 2004 on the PlayStation 2. It has had a zillion video games since then. I imagine that's why it has the high capital that it does. I can't think of a Capcom franchise that maybe has more entries. And you also mentioned a lot of the Capcom franchising games you think of when you think of that series. Is there a reason you stayed away from this for so long, or didn't bite into it initially?
I think it was because I always had people in my life that liked it. Like, X-Kite, I had my cousin Chris, who's been on the show. I have another Kansas City buddy. Like, they have a whole Discord group of people who play this thing. They're crazy about it.
Incredible.
It just felt kind of intimidating. It's very chunky. There's a lot of systems to learn. That we were joking that the game is like 50% menus and maybe more, like 10% monster hunting, 90% menus was our joke, but it's not really that extreme. But there's a lot of micromanaging resources, and it is grindy. So I was worried about learning all of that stuff, especially with so many entries. It's like, am I too late in the game to kind of pick it up? So that was maybe what off-put me.
To me, it's very much in your wheelhouse. It's, I guess I don't know what this style is, considering it predates the Soulsborne's S, but it's sort of an action game where you fight bosses and have to get good, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd say it's an action RPG from before we had Souls games. It's like Capcom also makes Devil May Cry. Like, it has a little bit of Devil May Cry DNA in it with this action slasher. There's a multiplayer component. So yes, it's an action RPG. Team up with your buddies if you want to and fight big monsters, and then make their
And
bones into swords and keep doing that.
yeah, and even like you said, the menu systems, it reminds me a lot of Bloodborne's menu system or Elden Ring, where there's a lot going on. There's a lot of like numbers, micromanaging of numbers, and like, oh, I need this armor because it's got, it's a couple points higher than my current armor. So there's a lot of grinding for new loot and things like that. And that's what the sort of the gameplay loop is all about, right? You go out, you hunt monsters, you use their body parts to get better gear, and then you go out, hunt harder monsters to hunt, right? And that's sort of the
And
loop.
to that end, Jacob. It is that over and over and over. The monsters who are the bosses, because there are these larger monsters you hunt, then there's this sort of lived-in world with these smaller little critters that inhabit it, that you're getting their resources, you're mining for resources, you're picking up plant resources, doing all that management, yes, but you're also fighting these big monster bosses, and the early ones that are, let's say, a red dragon, a Rathalos. By the end of the game, you're fighting an Azure Rathalos, things like that. You're fighting this degree of monsters that keeps rising, rising, rising. And in tune with that, you have a ranking system, which you are trying to in-game increase your sort of guild rank so that you are allowed to hunt these higher monsters. And then in the world of just playing, the primary thing being, as Mike just explained, multiplayer, playing online, grouping up, doing parties. You're trying to ascend to those higher echelons of ranking too, just to again get the best gear. It's there's also kind of a Diablo element in there, I guess, right? Again, through the grindiness.
I wanted to make that comp is it's like the same thing.
Yeah.
You're trying to do like infinite, endless iterations of the same dungeons. You're just trying to get the higher level loot every time, and it's kind of that vibe.
And there's really yeah, go ahead.
I'm just saying, I much prefer the loop of fighting giant monster to like auto click in Diablo. Like it's way more satisfying to go out with your gear.
Yeah.
So.
But the game is sort of like Diablo. It's all about like end game content. Like once you get past the like the story mode is basically like the tutorial, and then once you get that, the game really opens up, and then you end up in the end game where you're just getting like ridiculous gear and stuff like that. Like that's kind of the draw of grinding and playing for hundreds of hours to get to that level.
And can I ask you, Colin, what attracted you to this? Like you played the first one, so how's your journey been going through this, and what do you really take the most enjoyment out of with the series?
It was a blockbuster rental, just walking up and down those aisles. I knew nothing about it. I don't think PlayStation Magazine or Game Informer had tipped me off, in the world where you would just discover things, right, guys?
Those were the days. Just look in the aisles. Yeah.
Incredible.
Right.
My brother and I rented it. I think we were maybe allowed to get 2 games. This might have been the instance where we only got 1. It's a solo game. We didn't have we didn't have the Ethernet plugged into our PS2, so we certainly weren't playing games online.
Did it have like local co-op though that you could?
No, it was a total single player experience. So we would take shifts and turns. I think it was too adult and complicated almost for us, even at 15, and my brother would have been like 17 at that point, maybe about to go to college, which is why maybe it became my thing as he left. He's gone on to play all these games as well, but to me it was like, oh, this is something I can sit down, play for 30 minutes before I have to go to fucking high school or whatever, and like get good at. Like get good at before getting good was a thing. Like I can just sit down and do this skill. And what attracted me to it is not only the fantasy settings, because I've said in the past I prefer fantasy to sci-fi. There's very much a sort of Dungeons and Dragons element to this, and sort of not a class system, but your classic role-playing way that you can approach things. The lived-in world that was so much more complex than, say, a Zelda. I mean, the fact that in the early games you had to eat food and sharpen your weapons and do things that seemed like incredibly intricate and overcomplicated, but were like very real to role-playing games. And then the final element was the big fucking monsters. They looked so fucking cool, and I just thought that it was like great to kill them, and they were all so different and interesting. Some were dragons, some were, things you would recognize from the world, giant saber-toothed tigers. Others would just be like big sacks of goo that can just move.
A classic JRPG, the goos.
My problem is, what if I don't want to kill the monsters? What if I want to be friends with the monsters?
Yeah.
Is there a monster friender game that I could play?
There should be a separate game. It is Pal World, unfortunately. Or, Jacob, you've made the association that it's very much like an adult version of Pokemon, right?
Yeah.
Now, they've gone on to, I've said there's 1,000 different fucking entries in this franchise. They have a much more JRPG/anime franchise called Monster Hunter Stories, and there's a sequel to that game as well. Where you catch and train the monsters. I mean, it's like you do befriend the monsters.
I guess that is Pokemon, where you're catching the monsters, training them, making them fight, and then they don't die at the end of the fight. They faint, and then you can revive them.
The franchise has been spread that thin, but
Hmm.
Just on the monsters of it all, what also just really appealed to me to this game was I'd never approached AI like this before. This is a environment that is real and alive. Animals interact with each other. The monsters will fight if they come into each other's territory. They have young that they will protect. They will go after you if you try to take their eggs, things like
Hmm.
that. They react to weather changes. They react to environmental disasters, which you can sort of trigger these localized traps and things. Um, and it has only gone on to get more and more superior with every entry. I've always been so fascinated at how they approach programming the things that you are destined to hunt and how they react and try to escape from you in some sort of brutal ways as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I,
big draw of it, right? The hunt.
Yeah.
And one thing I like about it that I know about is when you're fighting the monster, there's no like health bar telling you how close it is to dying or something, but there's like environmental signs, like it'll start acting differently or it'll have wounds on it or something, and that's how you know it's getting, weaker. And so I really like that idea of just like picking up on context clues of how close it is to like dying, rather than just a health bar saying, "Oh, you have this many hit points left." Right? It's
yeah,
much more
yeah.
immersive.
You like damage a leg and it'll like favor the other side, or there's a lot of
Yeah,
detail,
that's really
especially with this
cool.
current iteration. I'm sure they've built on it from the early days. And yeah, that lived-in world is was I played the beta at first to see if I would like it. I was like, this is awesome. Like, yeah, when they fight each other and they're like, oh yeah, let them fight. Take some damage
Let them fight.
for me. Let them fight. We say.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I think that's a really cool part of this game. They lean into the hunt aspect. You still have to eat
Yes.
before you go out. Like that preparation phase. I joke about the menus, but it's like it feels correct. Like you got to get ready. These things are massive and they're real, and you have to take that prep phase seriously. I think it's a fun loop.
I like that a lot too. It's very immersive, and it's like, yeah, you gotta sharpen your weapons. You gotta make sure you eat. You gotta take whatever potions or whatever that'll give you buffs and stuff, right?
Yeah,
Um,
environmental elemental damage is a thing. So I need a fire resistance or lightning resistance, and now there's a thunderstorm,
You
so
have
it's
to
even
plan.
worse. Yeah.
yeah,
You truly have to think about everything you're doing. It's not just the loadout of gear that you are bringing, it is the items you're equipping yourself as well. Mike, you just said it. If you go to a warm climate, you need a cooling drink to make sure you're not burning up. Vice versa, if you go to a frozen climate, something to warm you up, you need to wear pelts, you need to wear furs. Uh, like,
Mm-hmm.
back to just hunting the monsters and what you said, Jacob, about like the damaging them. You're cutting limbs off them sometimes. You're making them limp, cry differently. I mean, again, they are so responsive, and it is putting you into the mindset of a hunter. You're going out there and thinking to yourself, I have a gun. What kind of ammo do I need to bring? I'm
Mm-hmm.
only going to get the ammo that I bring. I need to bring specialized stuff for this that does this purpose. Can I make more while I'm out there? Will I find the materials to do that into the little world that I'm leaving to? Do I need to bring a trap? Am I actually hunting to kill this monster?
Mm-hmm.
Or am I going to catch it and put it to sleep? What has been requested of me, slash, what is just your play style? And then two play styles, the big thing I want to talk about. Got to talk about your character. Got to talk about the weapon you use, because I said the RPG element, the sort of what role you sort of can take, really comes down to what is your weapon. And Mike, if you're playing in a party scenario, was there crossover? Was everybody doing something different? What was your role through what was your weapon?
Yeah, so on the beta, well, I guess I'll list. I mean, I'm not the expert, but I have the chart here. There's 14 weapons in the current
Mm,
Monster Hunter. So there's a great sword, which is like big melee damage. The long sword's a little bit faster, big melee damage, sword and shield. Dual blade, fast melee damage. The hammer, big bonk. Hunting horn is like buff. Lance is defensive, stay in their face. Gun lance, lance but with a gun. The switch
pretty
axe, which
much.
is a sword and an axe, I believe. The charge
Okay.
blade, which is what I first tried. It's a blade you can charge. Insect glaive is an interesting one. It's a staff that you also control bugs and flip around. It's like a dexterity, light bow
Very
gun,
acrobatic.
right, and then heavy bow gun and the bow and arrow. Um, I started with the charge blade and was overwhelmed by the move set and the gauges that you had to keep track of. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. And then I tried another couple weapons and I landed on the bow and arrow, and I'm normally not a bow guy, but they made the bow
Hey,
so fun in this game. I am loving doing the archery, and then my other friends, they have one guy will play anything, but I have a great sword main. I'm the bow guy. We usually have a long sword in there, maybe a hammer, and I'm just staying at range, doing my thing, and they're
Wow.
cutting tails. We have like designated tail cutters. It's a whole thing. But yeah, I'm a bow main right now. But Colin, what
that's
weapons do
fascinating.
you gravitate to?
Now, I think in the original game, there were probably only 6 of those.
Hmm.
It's interesting that you call out the insect glaive. That's the most recent addition to weapons. It's really the one that I have the least familiarity with.
Hmm.
What I try to do is pick a new specialty every game that I play. So I have bounced around and at this point played enough of them that I've fully experienced them all. I lean towards bow guns. I think they're the most fun and most challenging for this game. And we should talk about the special part of Monster Hunter Wilds, this new version, is you
Hmm.
can do 2 weapons, which is a first for the franchise ever. You can have a primary weapon and a sub weapon as well. Which to me automatically kind of implies you should have a melee and a long range weapon. So I've been doing the twin blades and the bow because you pointed out how much fun it is. And I gotta say, super fun, dog.
I was thinking about picking up the twin blades too. Like you could be like Legolas. You got your 2 daggers and your bow and arrow. But that's awesome.
What
Yeah,
I feel
I'm
like.
loving the bow. I've never played a
Jacob,
game where it's that much fun. But yeah.
Yeah.
what would you play if you were playing this? What
Oh,
sounds appealing out of those?
I'd probably be a bow guy. I
Yeah.
mean, I like bow and arrows. I was thinking about what games I've played that are probably most similar to this, and really, I was thinking about 2 Western RPGs because Red Dead Redemption 2, I got really into the hunting in that game. And it's a
Hmm.
lot more basic where you're just hunting normal animals, right? Bears and things like that. But there's
You're
the
using
special
signs and
animals.
clues.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got to track them. You got to bring the right weapons and that sort of thing.
Hmm.
And you can make gear out of their pelts and things like that. So definitely the hunting side of things, I feel like that fits it from a Western RPG standpoint. And then when you were talking about the bow, I was thinking about another game I really like, the Horizon Zero Dawn series,
Hmm.
Horizon Zero Dawn, Horizon Forbidden
Yeah.
West,
They got big
where
monsters.
you're fighting giant robot dinosaurs in a post-apocalyptic setting, but you're using a bow, and there's a lot of different kinds of arrows you can use with that bow. You have slingshots, which have more like explosive damage and
Mhm.
things. So you need to tailor your weapons to the animals or the robot dinosaurs that you're fighting.
Hmm.
And like if there's a fire one, you want to use ice damage and that sort of thing, electricity damage. So that reminds me a lot of the Horizon series, which I like the combat in that game a lot. So,
Mm.
We just have
and you're,
3 bows out there. We just blink them
That
yeah,
would
all.
be kind of
I
killer.
always,
That
I
would be
do like to be
sick.
a bow guy. I mean, the gun lance sounds interesting to me.
We call it
There's
the
some
American
combinations.
Lance, but yeah.
Mm, yeah. But there's
Yeah.
some of those weapons sound almost like Bloodborne weapons where they're
Mhm.
the
Hmm.
switch weapons where it can be, in Bloodborne, you have a longer range weapon and then it can switch to like a short range, or there's,
Yes.
2 styles. So the threaded cane was one I liked where it could be a whip or it could be a cane.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of fun. So it sounds like some of those weapons are similar to that.
Hmm.
Very often, each weapon comes with its own play style. You can do sort of a heavy flow of attacks or a lighter flow of attacks and sort of lean which way you want to go. Things like sword and shield, the bow and arrow, too. You're also typically specializing in status effects. You're getting like coded weapons where you're trying to either inflict sleep or poison
Hmm.
or something on the monster, whereas you could also have somebody else who's just got a straight melee sword and shield. They're backing you up as well. Um, the PlayStationification of it all, because Jacob, you're very rightly calling out Horizon Zero Dawn, a game that has crossed over with Monster Hunter. They have DLC where you can
Hmm.
play as what's her name?
Aloy,
Outlet.
Aloy, of course, the
Outlet.
famous
I thought it was
Sony
Outlet.
character Aloy.
Sure, of course.
Uh,
Um, and put on an armor that makes you look like that character. You don't
Love that.
hunt any of the robotic animals. They've only very recently, in the last video game, Monster Hunter World, the first big PlayStation entry in a very long time, which was for the PlayStation 4. Now we're up to the PlayStation 5, and obviously computers as well for Wilds. Um, introduced these crossovers where you hunt different monsters from other franchises. We talked off pod about The Witcher 3 with Aleshin, which is a very cool
Yes.
thing to hunt.
And
There's been
Witcher
some
3
Devil
was a
May
game,
Cry monsters.
Oh, that's
another game that
awesome.
reminded me, because you're hunting
Mhm.
different monsters, and as Geralt, you have to prepare different ways to fight different monsters. That's very
He
similar
would
as
be
well.
right at home. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And his playstyle translated so well to a twin sword because he's got the silver and the
Absolutely.
regular, right? Like the skin was so awesome when it came out. But the PlayStationification of it is that sort of the Horizon Zero Dawns of the world, or the Ubisofts of it, which is those Assassin Creeds, those
Sure.
whatever,
Hmm.
the action RPG top downy things
The
have
open world.
homogenized so much the open worldness of it all, and this is the largest open world that's ever been in a Monster Hunter game. That you do see the pullback of what makes the franchise unique and special. I know the little bit of criticism that Wilds has received is that this is dumbed down. It's the easiest.
They're making it
version of
more
the game
accessible
ever.
for
Yeah.
Elden
for
Ring.
newbies to jump into the franchise, right? So maybe some of the hardcore fans are like, "Oh, they're making it, they're normieizing it," but
Yes.
they want, obviously the biggest audience of people to play it as they can get, so they want to make it more accessible for newcomers.
But what is the balance? What is the line you guys think you have to walk where you've got the traditions of the franchise, the weapon damage, using whetstones to resharpen your blades used to be a limited commodity. You had to pick those up, buy them, mine them. Now it's an unlimited thing. You still have to do it, but at any moment you can truly sharpen your blade. What does it matter? You used to actually have to be observant on your hunts. Now there's these things called hunter flies. You can literally just target your objective. Your map tells you exactly where you have to go at all times.
Yeah.
I I don't know. Like, what do you guys think about that? It doesn't bug me as a long-term fan because I'm happy to see more people come around to it. It is all stuff you can kind of toggle off. It is a UI nightmare again. Is unfortunate that this franchise kind of the bottom line, right?
Yeah, I'm still trying to get to high rank in menus. It's difficult. I'm getting better at them. I practice every day a little bit.
Yeah.
I think if you can
Yeah.
turn off certain things like that, if you want a more hardcore experience, then you can do that. But if you want a more accessible experience, then you can also do that. So I think that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the easiest comp to me would be Elden Ring. Everybody's like, "Oh, this is a baby game. Dark Souls should be hard. Why is Elden Ring accessible?" And it's like, well, if you want to
Right.
do it the hard way, you can. No one's stopping you from doing it the hard way. But we're getting new
Yeah.
players in here, so I think people came around, and
I
everyone
also don't
accepts like
think,
Elden Ring is sick. So I think we're gonna be
yeah.
okay.
And I also don't
Yeah.
think Elden Ring was that accessible. Like, it was still had some Dark Souls hardness to it that really, I mean, your play style
It's
could
still a
determine.
FromSoft game, yes.
Yeah. Like, I still had a lot
It's
of trouble on some of those bosses. I mean, they're not dumbing those down, really.
Mm-hmm.
Elden Ring is the most accessible of those versions of games, but don't you guys find it fascinating that they've had to throw all that out and basically make their own Monster Hunter clone with that new Elden Ring multiplayer game that's out where you just team up and fight bosses, and it's got all the wayfaring stuff that this game has, and workarounds and mounts and all that dumb bullshit.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell they're thinking with that. That's like the first time they've diluted the brand, and I think it's a misstep. But it's
Yeah.
like we literally have Monster Hunter. Who's gonna play Night Rain? Nobody, because we have Monster Hunter.
Yeah.
It's just that, but better. Anyway,
Yeah, and I mean, Elden Ring, even the critical path of the storyline was really not spelled out to you, and it's not like NPCs are like, go over here, and then it would have like a path that shows you like where your next objective is. You kind of have
No.
to figure that out by yourself by just kind of wandering around and being like, well, I don't really. I mean, that was my experience playing with it, where I was like, I don't really know what's going on or where I'm going, but uh, I'll get there eventually.
it still retained enough of the DNA of a traditional FromSoft game that it's like, yeah, it's still that. And I haven't played any other Monster Hunter, but I like what's in here, and it's like there's already a trillion resources I need to go get in the wild. I need to go find honey. I need to catch bugs. It's like if a whetstone is make or break for hardcore fans, I don't know. I'm fine not having to grab one more thing because I already have 200 things to do anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From
Yeah.
what I've heard, this is the first actually fully open world Monster Hunter game whereas like Monster Hunter Wilds and Monster Hunter World and earlier games, they were more zone based, where you would be separated by loading screens. You go into a zone that's more open world, but it's not fully open world. Whereas this one is the first time fully open world.
And that lends itself, I think, to some really epic fights. Like I would get blown away by just the distances I'm traveling as we fight this monster and
Yeah.
he runs away and then we have to climb up a mountain. Like there's something very cinematic, and now there's a thunderstorm. It's like pretty cool that you can traverse it. It's the first game in the RE engine as well, which is kind of
Right.
interesting.
That's
And the other new
Yeah.
addition for this one, I believe, is the mounts, where you're on these like raptor mount things where you can travel a lot faster than you can on foot. Whereas in World, you'd be on foot, and then if the monster ran away, you kind of have to track it and figure out where it went. Whereas in this game, you can just hop on your mount, go a lot faster, kind of keep up with it.
Dynamic.
So as you're saying, the zones have expanded and expanded literally every reiteration. They've always experimented with what used to be one is now two combined together as one. Like just everything getting bigger. When it got to PlayStation again with Worlds, with the last entry on PS4, you're right, Jacob. It was an open world, and there were no mounts. What it primarily introduced was this thing called the Slinger, which you're what's that game, Sekiro? Right?
Yeah.
You're Sekiroing around. You're shooting your little grappling hook. It's like your
Sure.
Arkham Knight series, right? You've got a little mobility there. Then, in my opinion, this is the only game I've never played. The franchise backslides, Jacob. After this huge history they've had where the PlayStation sales were great, then they kind of failed. They went over to Nintendo, and that's where you get the Wii iterations, the Wii U iterations, the 3DS iterations that had a huge, great run and basically kept the franchise alive. I loved a lot of those games. Then they jumped to this World for PlayStation. Then this backslide, I'm saying, the Switch game, Monster Hunter Rise, where they kind of went back to having bad graphics, smaller zones, introduced the first mounts ever, Malmoots, which were these dogs that you would ride around on. Now, this game has combined both things. We've gone back to the high fidelity of the PlayStation world and introduced new bird mounts, these things called secrets. And they've been great. And I got to say, Mike, I'd be curious about your opinion on this. The open worldness only works because of them. It's exactly what you said, Jacob, if a game's big, you need a way to get around quick. Yes, these little birds that run super fast, having your own fucking chocobo, basically, is a deal maker. I mean, it's incredible.
No, it's great. I love him. He reminds me of that lizard that Obi-Wan gets to ride. So I like it
Little
for that
less
reason.
annoying.
Yeah, less annoying vocally, but no, they're great, and it helps keep the battles dynamic when a flying monster, something tries to get away and you're riding underneath it at high speed. Like it keeps the energy up, and no fall damage is great. When I first jumped off a cliff, I was like, oh no, this is Dark Souls, I'm dead. And then, oh, no fall damage, this is nice. So yeah, it helps you get around the world very easily.
Yeah. It reminds me again of another, speaking of Star Wars games that I have experience with, the Jedi Survivor series. The second one was Jedi Survivor and Jedi Outcast. Was the first one, right?
Remember what they were.
Fallen Order.
Jedi Fallen Order. Yeah, okay, that's right.
Survivor,
and then Jedi Survivor is the second one. They went from a Dark Souls style levels based with platforming and stuff to where different stages where you fly the ship to different areas, isolated levels, to the sequel being open world, much larger areas that still have platforming areas within those areas, but you're traveling a lot greater distances. And they do give you mounts, and the mounts are very similar. Actually, they're kind of chocobo looking Star Wars
Do
mounts.
they give you the
on.
dumb Obi-Wan one?
Not that one, because it's a different planet, but it's they're native to the planet that you're on, but it is very similar. So I'm riding around Cal Kestis on these mounts.
Shut up, I'm trying to sneak around here.
Yeah, that thing. Oh,
so the addition of open world, I mean, I'm a big fan of open world games. A lot of people don't like the Ubisoft style open worlds, or they're a tired formula, which I can kind of agree with. But I sort of like I like an open world game. So
See, to me, this is something where it's a strike in the column of what it should have always been, like Breath of the Wild,
Mm.
right? Where it's like, this is what these games should have been. This is what they should have evolved to. And I almost think you couldn't
yeah,
come back from it.
With the living
yeah,
environment too, like it just feels right to have all these random packs of roaming monsters, big monsters around, just wandering and being able to travel from one end of the map to the other. Yeah, it feels cohesive and alive in a way that not a lot of other
yeah.
games do.
Well, I
So
think
yeah,
part of that
can't go
is
bad.
technological advancement, where in the 2000s, a lot of these series is going from specific isolated levels or zones to a more open world. In the 2000s and even in the 2010s, it was a lot harder to make an open world game because we just didn't have the technological capabilities to do it in a way that of a game that would actually run and not just be like constantly buggy or performance issues or something. Now with technology where it is, it's much easier to make an open world game like that and have it run properly. I wanted to ask you this too. How are the technical, like, how is the performance of the game? Have you had a lot of bugs playing it, or how's it run so far for you, being so
I've
new?
seen some people complaining. I don't have a PlayStation 5 Pro. I am playing it
Mm,
on my PlayStation 5. It has the options that it says right when you start. If you're playing on the Pro, you need to optimize to these settings. I don't have that, so I'm playing at I think 40 frames per second refresh, something like that. Right?
Hmm.
It's looked great to me so far. I don't know.
yeah.
How about you, Mike?
I've been seeing people would specifically buy it for console because there was perceiving the issues might be on PC. And I will say, on launch, the beta was fine, but on launch, it took me 2 hours to get the game to work properly. And I
Mm,
had to boot it in compatibility mode for Windows 8, and there was still graphic artifacting happening. And then there was
wow.
a driver update, an optional driver update from AMD, who makes my graphics card. And then that fixed it. And ever since the optional driver update for Wilds, explicitly, it's been great. Like I'm
That's good.
getting like 120 frames a second. It's going crazy. So I've had good
That's always
performance
the
issues once they patched it.
yeah, the risk with PC gaming is that, like, number one, everyone's PC is different, different specs on everyone, so it's like hard to make one that works for everything. And then, yeah, troubleshooting a game when it first comes out and you're like trying to figure out how to get it to run on your PC. And then the sort of trade off of, like, do you want higher graphical quality or do you want higher, frame rate? Because oftentimes, if you have the higher quality, it's going to tank your frame rate or cause more problems. So it's
Yeah.
sort of performance versus quality is always an issue with new games as well.
And with a game like this, the scale of it, and again, I may have misspoken when I said it's the first one in RE Engine, but it's in the RE Engine, which was invented for Resident Evil 7, where they're like, can we do a house, a small house? And now we have an entire world. So they really
Yeah.
scaled up what they needed. But when you have gigantic monsters and there's crazy particle effects and lightning and wind and sandstorms, like that's
Yeah.
a lot of processing and graphical data that's going on. There is a lot happening
Yeah.
on screen. So it's understandable that your mileage may vary on PC.
Right.
And, yeah.
And then add in the element of, like, if you're teaming up with people, if you're doing co-op, there's other issues of, like, getting in the same party together, going out on quests
Mhm.
and stuff like that. There's always an issue. Maybe someone will drop or something. So
Well,
there's a
and
lot
this
going on.
game puts your beloved Marvel rivals to shame, Jacob, as it does have cross-play capabilities.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
That
Marvel Rivals, I think the choice was made for ranked not to have console and PC together, and really it's a benefit for console because it's keyboard and mouse versus controller. Technically, with aiming and stuff, controller can't really keep up with keyboard and mouse. So console players get their own rank, so they don't have to play against keyboard and
It's
mouse.
not a
Makes it easier for
benefit to
them.
me. I want to play with my friends.
can't I
True.
just
And well,
plug
the
in a
ironic
keyboard
thing
and
is that
mouse to a PlayStation? Like that shouldn't be a problem in
yeah.
2025.
Well, and the ironic thing is I play PC ranked and I use a controller, which puts me at a disadvantage, but I prefer using a controller for this game to keyboard and mouse. But I know for an aiming, it's a definite disadvantage because you have a point and click versus moving your joystick
Acceleration,
on
curves,
on a
all
controller.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, they could
Um,
add, aim assist to kind of balance it out, but that's what they want to do. So,
Years ago, this was a franchise along the times of like your Final Fantasy 11s, where MMOs were big things. Monster Hunter did have its own MMO. Frontiers
Hmm.
Online, huge in Japan, where it was basically only played. There were not that many American servers. And I do bring that up because, Mike, you mentioned its popularity and that there were pop-ups, food places like that. There were internet cafes that were Monster Hunter MMO specifics. Like you would go there and that's all you could play on those machines.
Sure.
That is wild.
I'm sure there'd be people there that are there for like 24 hours a day, like, I got to wear a diaper so I don't have to go to the bathroom, that kind of thing.
That's a
You know,
life
people get
hack, though.
addicted.
Not the diaper part, but
Yeah.
if you need to take a nap, you just go to a manga cafe, rent out a room for like $20. You can stay there for 6 hours and just private
Sure.
little room. But I want to ask you, Colin, have you done any of the online play with this yet? Are you doing single player? Or what? Have you engaged with that at all?
I've only put in 3 hours into Wilds currently, which basically means I've done the 3 opening hunts. I'm LR3, low rank 3, I believe. Mike, you said you've moved on to high rank now, correct?
Yeah, I have been obsessed with this. Once I did get it running again, I have my friends that are
Congratulations.
longtime players. They kind of maybe carried me through some of the stuff, but it's fun to fight with them. So that made the experience good. But I'm high rank now. I beat the story over the weekend, and I'm now HR
Damn.
20. I'm going
So-
crazy.
That's incredible. I'm very proud of you. I hope you keep going up. I hope we get to play together.
I want to, yeah.
Thoughts on the story now? Jacob, you made that comment about how Elden Ring's punishing. It doesn't guide you towards its story. When you play it, you are playing a game where you're like, I don't know what this means, but it matters to somebody and it seems
Yeah.
very important and put together. In my opinion, Monster Hunter game story modes are usually like, hey kid, did you hear that
Wanna kill
monster's
some
out there?
monsters?
Like,
go hunt them.
let's do that every week, and it just keeps
Okay.
going and going and going, and not much of a payoff. Was that sort of as your first game? What did you think of it?
Yeah, and I won't spoil anything, but even if I wanted to, I couldn't because I don't know if this is a toxic trait of the group I was playing with, but their thing was we skip cutscenes. We don't
Yes,
care. We want to fight the monsters. We don't care, and then we get mad at me if I was watching cutscenes. Like skip it. I'm like, okay.
I have skipped every cutscene except for we mentioned it before. Palicos, your cat companions. Those
Yes.
started very late in the series. You now are always assigned every time when you start and make your own fresh character. You also design your Palico, the person who's going to be with you, your little cat companion. If it's a cinematic where it cuts to him talking, I'm always like, well, let's let this play for a little bit.
There's
got
one
to
other
say.
character that we agreed that you can watch those cutscenes. You'll probably get there later, but it is funny that
Yeah.
we're like, no. And the story we talked about, Red Dead 2, like there's long segments where you're on an auto walking thing on your horse bird just talking, and it's like this is exactly Red Dead with the auto navigate. We're gonna get some exposition out of the way.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
At least
Doesn't
the
matter.
Red Dead story is good though. I don't know what
It
the
is.
story is like.
This
in
could be
Monster
good.
Hunter.
I have no idea what it is.
To me,
Could be.
yeah.
But it is
to me,
very.
it's like
You see that
Pokemon.
monster?
Like you're not playing Pokemon games for the story, right? The story of every Pokemon game is pretty similar. You're going from trainer to trainer, to eventually become the best trainer or whatever, right? And the story.
But what if
I'm
by
usually
the end of
skipping
the
through
game,
dialogue and Pokemon, right?
but what if by the end of the game you're wearing a helmet that was a Pikachu's skull, Jacob?
Yeah.
I would love that.
No, it's
Yeah.
exactly like that though. It's like for Pokemon, once you beat the Elite Four, the game begins. That's when you start
Right.
building your tournament
Yeah.
teams and going crazy. This is the same thing. You get through the story, then you hit high rank, and
Yeah,
And
and,
then
then you
we
got
go.
that end game content.
Yeah.
Now, Palicos, this is a thing that I'm fascinated by. These little cat guys that can speak English or Japanese, whatever setting
They
you have it on.
shouldn't. This is the first game they've ever spoken English, I'll point out.
Okay.
And a lot of purists, Mike, I don't know if your gang told you to do this, but toggled off the English speech to put feline, felvine,
So they
which is
just
the
meow.
language of the Palicos.
yes, they all did that. But because I'm trying to practice learning Japanese, I left it on, and I think they're cute little guys speaking Japanese to me, throwing me heels.
But I'm fascinated by this. They look exactly like cats, like house cats, but they
Yes.
stand on two legs.
They do.
They walk around.
You get
They're
on
like a little
for 'em.
buddy. Yeah.
I believe it was by Monster Hunter Tri, which was the Wii entry. Quick side story, Jacob. I used to buy a thing called the Wii speaker, which I would plug into my Wii. I would plug an Ethernet cable in it, and then Sideburns and I would monster hunt on our Wiis in college together. We
Wow.
would talk on our cell phones and then try to talk into the Wii speakers. You couldn't understand anything. They had the worst microphone quality possible.
Yeah.
But they introduced these things called shakalakas. Shakalakas are these little bug guys. Specifically, shout out to the story sidekick you get. His name is Cha Cha. They were your little
Of
companions.
course.
The games were so hard originally that players used to complain, when I'm getting my ass kicked nonstop on solo, it's not fair that I don't have anyone to heal me. They introduced these little guys who could do this little dance and hit you with a buff every once in a while, right? It's your
I
little
love that.
sidekick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There used to be just random monsters in the world called Meowsters, Palicos, and Felvines, which were just different types of cats, like you said, true anamorphic little cats standing on two legs
Yeah.
that you would just kill. And they wouldn't actually die, they'd burrow underground and run away because who wants to kill a cat?
Mm-hmm.
Now, very Japanese in that immediately they just went, well, no, the cat should be the thing you're with the entire time. And
These
they
are your
decided
little
it's your
guys.
little
You can dress them
buddy.
up.
Yes,
Mhm.
you can make
And I
them
love that
look.
aspect of it.
You can take a picture of yours and basically NBA creator style, like make it look like your cat or whatever. Mine looks exactly like my cat Cookie because she's my little baby girl, and
Oh,
we're
that's
in this
incredible.
video game together hunting. And I named it the Monster, my little companion.
Oh, I love
Uh,
that.
and my favorite game in the Monster Hunter franchise, I believe it's Monster Hunter 4U, 4 Ultimate, which is one of the 3DS entries. It is the only game in the history of the franchise where you don't just create your character. You can go on hunts as yourself using any of the 16 weapons Mike named off, any of the different play styles. That one
Mhm.
specifically, you could assign play styles to, like the longsword could do specific things if you specialized in a certain play style. It also had the ability to play the game as a Palico.
Oh,
You could be a cat, and
Dog.
your weapons would just be that you're a cat doing crazy cat things. And I
Yeah.
loved to squat up in that game and see people write in the chat, "No, dude, don't play the Palico." But I'd be like, "Oh yes, dog, I
I'm playing the
made a little kitty cat."
It's the Bruce Banner main who never becomes the Hulk.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like, I'm a Palico
Yes.
main. I'm doing it. I
And
love that.
It-
every game, I'm like, bring it back. I don't understand why they got rid of it.
That would be
Yeah.
awesome.
I mean, I love the little. I mean, if the Palicos weren't in it, I would be less interested in playing it, to be honest. And I love the
Same.
customization because I love character customization in games. I love getting to make my character look however I want it to look, make it look crazy, give it a crazy hairstyle or whatever. And I like that you can do that with the cats. You can put different clothes on them. It is very Japanese. It's very Final
Yes.
Fantasy to me, where you just have these like little guys. But
Mhm.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah,
In
the
Monster Hunter
mascots,
World,
yeah.
Mike, my Palico wears Mega Man's armor.
Oh my gosh, yeah. That's Capcom
Yeah.
going
I love the
crazy.
crossover and the customization. You can even, customize your tent and like your campsite and stuff and make it look however you want it to. And so I love that angle of it for sure.
Can I ask about, since we're on character creation, Palico
Mhm.
creation, do you have a standard character you like to make, or is it different every time? Did you have a theme? Because I went theme heavy, but I want to ask you first.
Yeah, we have to hear about Mike's because it's incredible.
I want to hear about Mike's. I definitely back in the day used to go, well, I got to make it look like me. Now I don't do that, but I will say, like Jacob just said, I turned this game on. I spent 45 minutes on a character that's mainly going to wear a helmet most of the time.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
But
what
please,
I've run
Mike.
into as well.
Yeah, tell us all about yours.
So, I've never played the Monster Hunter games, but I did the tutorial mission once, and I'm seeing there's a lot of sand going on. There's sandstorms going crazy, and I'm like, you know what? Yeah, Mad Max Fury Road Furiosa did get snubbed. So I just made my character, because they have little goggles and stuff, and the default gear is like desert-y. I'm like, I'm just going to make Furiosa. I didn't have a plan, so I got a Charlize Theron picture on the left monitor, and I'm looking at the sliders trying to make one. I ended up getting like there's a piece of eye makeup I was able to stretch and move it to the
Not
forehead
Anya
so it looks
Taylor-Joy.
like the oil. Not the
Hell
Anya Taylor-Joy,
yes.
but so I made Furiosa,
Wow.
and then my Palico is named Truckman Jack, and I named my secret Lord Humongous, and we just run around. And the best part is you can customize your callouts, like when you do stuff, like when you join a server, you'll have a little message will pop up in a team chat. If you mount a monster, messages will pop up. So mine are all Mad Max themed, where like if I mount a monster, it says witness me, and if a teammate mounts a monster, it says witness, and if I get
It's
carded,
incredible.
it says I live, I die, I live again.
That's Mike.
Yeah.
God, you're doing it so right. I'm so happy to
Yeah.
hear that, dude.
If
I love
somebody
that, and
dies, it says mediocre.
And
It's great.
shooting arrows from the back of a secret while you're screaming "Witness me" sounds like so awesome,
It's
dude.
pretty badass.
Yeah. No, I was watching Mike play because he was streaming for me a little on Discord
Yeah,
when
we were
they're in
hanging.
their Monster Hunter chat, and I was like, "Let me see what this is all about." And I just see this little cat guy running around. It's got a name over it highlighted, Truckman Jack, and I'm like, "Truckman Jack." He's just running around. He's helping out Furiosa.
He's the best.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, so all my themed Mad Max callouts, I love them. I set a trap and it says, by my deeds, I honor him, V8. Like, it's just all these stupid little Mad Max lines that I worked into.
I haven't thought of Truckman Jack in a little bit. I miss him. I miss him a lot.
We all do. We
Me
all
too.
do.
That's why I made my little guy,
Um,
Truckman Jack.
And it really, I mean, like you said, it's a fantasy setting, but it has like a weird mix of technologies, right? Because there's guns, obviously.
Like
There's like
weird
some
kind of
steampunk
fantasy.
elements. Yeah.
The charge blade literally shoots steam out of it. You pull a thing and it turns into a chainsaw.
That's cool.
It's all my favorite things together. And I guess this is kind of the moment to ask. You guys have not seen the movie, correct?
No.
I had zero buy-in before this, so I have not seen it. It
Paul
looked like
W.
just
S.
Resident
Anderson,
Evil
right.
again.
I
Yeah,
almost
Mila Jovovich.
wonder, is it worth it just to do an episode one day on the movie? Because
You
it is
know
so
what?
crazy. Paul W. Sanderson, you mentioned, husband of Mila Jovovich. They've done all the Resident Evils together. His first big film was Mortal Kombat. Who scares you guys more as far as video game adaptations? Him or Yui Bowl?
Yui
Yeah,
Bowl,
they're both
I'm more
pretty bad.
scared of.
Yeah.
It reminds me of an earlier era in video game adaptations because we sort of figured them out. We have good video game movies now, and they understand that, like, yeah, if you don't change everything about the plot and make it totally different, people actually like it if you base it on what it's based on.
It has big Bob Hoskins Mario energy, Jacob.
Yeah.
In that I believe Mila Jovovich's character is named Agent Hunter, and I believe she is a woman who passes through a portal into a world where you hunt
Right.
monsters, and they use a tank to like shoot a dragon, basically.
So it's really nothing like the games, but it's kind of like the Resident Evil movies where they just started making up their own plots and not
Right.
following the plots of the games.
Yeah.
You know, but it's just it just becomes sort of a generic zombie type of thing.
I've seen it
so this-
I am
before.
curious now.
I think you should see it, Mike. I'm not pro Paul W.S. Anderson killing stunt people like he keeps doing on the Resident Evil movies, unfortunately, but I do like his life that he's married to the most beautiful woman in the world and he just keeps putting her in bad movies.
Yeah.
Jacob,
Yeah.
will you do a quick Google for me real quick? I believe he has a film in theaters right now with Dave Bautista and Mila Jovovich that's based on a George R.R. Martin story. What on
Whoa.
earth could that be?
That is crazy. Well, while he's looking that up, I guess it's important to mention that the best Monster Hunter adaptation is just Reign of Fire.
Yes,
You
yes,
know?
Mike.
Like,
Yes,
really?
people battling dragons like with their bare hands, basically.
With
yes,
slightly
yeah.
modern-ish technology, barely. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm seeing In the Lost Lands
What could that be?
is an action fantasy adapted from short stories by the one and only George R. Martin. This article is called quote, "It was a lot of pressure. Paul W. S. Anderson and Mila Jovovich revealed George R. R. Martin's reaction to watching their In the Lost Lands adaptation."
Oh, you made it bad.
Yeah.
That's right,
Well,
George. Good. That's your good reaction.
It's kind of my
Called
thing.
Sorceress Gray Alice Jovovich on her venture into the perilous Lost Lands to help a queen get the power to shapeshift. She enlists the help of a guide named Boyce, Dave Bautista, and the two face deadly creatures and treacherous landscapes along the way.
Is it?
Her name is
theaters
Alice
March
in
7th.
Resident Evil.
Yeah, that seems like a very cheap move. Jacob, is that in theaters or can I watch that tonight?
comes
The
to
second
theaters
we get done?
March
On
7th.
Tubi.
It says it's coming to theaters, so I'm not sure, but I'm sure
Wow.
it'll be on streaming.
To
very
a
shortly
theater,
after
you
that.
said? Just the one?
Yeah, I'm sure in a week it'll be on streaming.
Yeah.
George R. R. Martin, he said, I'm going to see what he said about this.
It's bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he'll kind of do anything now. Like he'll
Oh,
write
yeah.
the story for Elden Ring. He's doing all this different. He's doing anything but working on the Winds of Winter, basically.
Well, I was going to say no, but then I heard that they'd pay me for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
Mila
geez.
Jovovich reveals what sets Grey Alice apart from her other characters.
Ray
I'm going to say nothing.
Yes,
Yeah.
let me give you a hint. Yeah,
Yeah.
nothing.
This is
Do
the
you
first real
action?
magical creature I've ever played. I've done a lot of sci-fi. I've been created in laboratories. I've been injected with viruses. It's always been kind of corporate. So, okay,
Well,
sure.
What she said?
I'm gonna
Yeah.
run out
So
to
this
see
is
that one.
exciting because fantasy is one of her favorite genres. I read fantasy books all the time.
Okay.
That's great.
Okay.
So thank you for bringing this to my attention. I definitely will be watching.
You
this.
were in a movie called Monster Hunter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, I saw the trailer of that movie and it did look like she was a modern military person who, goes into this fantasy land, I guess, with their tanks and stuff. It looked very un-Monster Hunter from what I've seen of the games.
The big thing about it is, and of course it made money in Japan, was one, basically Ron Perlman is playing his character from Pacific Rim, and two, Tony Jaa is in it.
Wow.
And it was one of those rare Tony Jaa in an American blockbuster.
Interesting. Did you are any of the monster designs from the game? Did they at least get any of that right?
They're pretty much ripped. I mean, the beautiful thing, my brothers talked about it a lot with toy design, and I will do a quick shout out. I believe this is revealed. Maybe cut it out if it's not, but there is a Transformers crossover that's happening with Monster Hunter where it's like Optimus turns into the Rathians or the Rathaloses, the lead dragon characters. But he's long pointed out to me, Mike, that movie studios now just hand over the CAD to toy designers, and I believe video game companies do the same thing to movie studios now. So you're pretty much always getting one-to-one in these CG designs lately.
It just looked very generic compared to
too,
yeah. I mean, the movie from what I saw looked very generic to didn't look like it had the flavor of the games. But by the way, I'm going to post in our little chat here. I'm going to post the movie poster of In the Lost Lands because it looks incredible. And I just want you guys to see it and react.
But
to
yeah,
that.
Monster Hunter movie it felt very Terminator Salvation type of energy. I don't know why. It's just like military people hiding under sheet metal a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I like about this poster and what I like about
very like Bloodborne.
Dave Bautista's look in it, I guess, is he is playing the Wolverine from the current Marvel Rivals.
Yes,
the Van Helsing.
Of course.
Very Bloodborne-y. He's got these pistols. He's got sort of a cowboy hat. He's like a Western fantasy guy almost. And then you have Mila Jovovich with her like sickle blades. Now, looks like something I'll definitely be watching.
Well, it definitely looks like something made for TV. Now, Jacob, you said she said she's never done a fantasy movie before. She, of course, was a witch in the Hellboy film.
It wasn't that bad Hellboy movie.
Like, what a crazy woman she is.
Oh, man.
She does not remember any of these horrible movies she's been in.
Still looking great, though. I mean...
She is, and I've always loved her. She's her and Kate Beckinsale were the women in black leather shooting guns in the 2000s.
Underworld and Resident
my father
Evil.
would take me to every movie that released, and I'm positive why.
Yes.
We love Kate Beckinsale. I'm surprised there was never somehow a crossover between the Resident Evil movies and the Underworld movies.
There will be.
That seems like the perfect movie.
AI is working on it.
Yeah.
Let's I've got a segment, so let's jump over to that, and then we can kind of give our final thoughts, wrap up, and if there's anything else we want to talk about in the Monster Hunter universe here on Normies Like Us. We're back here on Normies Like Us, where we're talking Monster Hunter, and we're about to do a segment. We're going to talk about hunting some monsters. Guys, I've got a little situation for you guys and a little game called Movie Monster Hunters.
Okay.
And here's the premise. This is movie monster hunting challenges that start at the smallest scale possible and then get larger and larger and larger. And I'm asking you guys if you think you could hunt these monsters. Now, you come to your own personal consensus in this. You both answer. Whoever says they can't hunt the monster loses. That's where we'll kind of stop playing or whatever. So
Wow.
you've got to hope you can progress with each other here. The
Okay.
rules are it's you versus the monster. You're in a huge empty coliseum. You're 20 feet apart from each other, and you will be given a weapon as well that you can use after the ref does a count of 3 to start.
And are there limitations on the weapon we can choose?
I will assign the weapon to you.
I like that.
With these
Okay.
little scenarios, you'll get the weapon, and you just got to tell me, do you think you could hunt this movie monster?
Okay. I like
Okay.
it. I like it. And 3 seconds before we can use the weapon, so we got to kind of survive.
Figure out
until
what
then.
you're going to do. Tell me how you're going to do it. So here we go.
Great.
Can you hunt this monster? Gizmo the Mogwai if you had a hammer.
Oh yeah,
I would
I'd beat
say
that thing to death with a hammer for sure.
if I had to. You push comes to shove. Sorry,
Yeah.
guy. I mean,
You
morally,
would
could I do
smash
it?
up Gizmo.
I wouldn't want to smash up Gizmo. If it was like, what's his name, Stripe, I would beat
Easy.
Stripe up with a hammer for sure.
We might talk about Stripe.
But if it's him versus me, 2 men enter, 1 man leave. I'm sorry, Gizmo. You got to get
Yeah.
the hammer.
I got a hammer. I got to do what I got to do. You know.
Sorry.
You're both confident. He's small. You're big. Smash, smash, smash.
Was
You
this
both-
Mogwai
Mm-hmm.
version, or is this
full-on
he
Mogwai?
ate
version.
after he ate
And
after
he doesn't
midnight?
even have the little bow and arrow or the little car that he drives around in. He's just
In
out there.
Yeah.
You're just stepping
Just like
on his
beating a
glass.
Furby to death. Yeah.
I could give him the hammer and I'd still beat him. Yeah,
Okay.
that's easy.
Gizmo's a pass. Ding. Okay. Second. Pikachu from the film Detective Pikachu, voiced by Ryan Reynolds, if you had a spear.
Ooh.
Well, Pikachu has electrical powers, so he could zap you.
He also has quick attack, so he's gonna he'll be on the offensive if I have
Now-
to wait 3 seconds.
Here's the thing, though, guys. You got to remember your movie history. Detective Pikachu in those movies, he doesn't fight. He's just Detective Pikachu. He's just a little guy voiced
Right,
by
he's a
Ryan Reynolds.
detective. He does have Ryan Reynolds' voice, which would annoy me immediately.
Which
Um,
would compel you
and so I
to.
would want to stab him with a spear. Yes.
Yeah, I guess if it's Detective Pikachu, I think I'd have a fair chance with a spear. I think they're about 3 feet tall. Yeah, that's probably doable.
Yeah. I'd have to do it.
You guys are killing that little rat that's saying snarky things. Okay, ding, ding. You
Killing
both
Justice
passed.
Smith's father.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, blimey, Dad.
Incredible.
I'm making him D&D British in that. Of course, he's not in that movie.
I like
All
to
right,
be
number
D&D
3.
British is a genre of language.
D&D British.
He's trying to remember
Number
the
3.
show from the 90s that he loved. Go ahead.
The pink, what is it called? The pink
Pink Opaque?
The pink opaque.
Ah, that's right.
All right. Monster number 3. Could you hunt E.T. the extraterrestrial if you had a sword?
First
Oh,
of all,
absolutely.
you're saying
Yeah.
Monster Hunt, but it's so far beloved childhood character Hunt.
Yeah, we're just murdering little guys.
These are monsters.
Yeah. No, I think with a sword,
Yeah.
he almost died because he caught a cold, dude.
Yeah,
can't
a
handle
little
a sword.
gray alien, a little
That's
gray,
true.
weak little alien that's like,
Gets sick
I
on
want
you.
to phone home.
He's
Now,
so
he's
much
tall,
got
though.
with-
He's got some height.
He is
but
tall.
would he be mean to you? I think he's automatically just passive no matter what, right?
Yeah,
I think if he pops that head up and his neck gets real long, it's done. It's done deal,
you could
man.
really decapitate him pretty easily.
You just going snick snack, popping that neck off, Mike? Oh my God.
No one's
Yeah.
phoning home today, buddy. Yeah.
All
I
right.
don't make the rules in the
E.T.
arena.
I have to do it. I'm sorry, buddy.
Ding ding, you both kill E.T. All right, you
Mhm.
guys are still together. Now, the previously mentioned Stripe the Gremlin if you had a bow and arrow.
Okay, so I'd have a bow and arrow. He would be a gremlin. He'd be getting
Little
into some
claws,
shenanigans.
little
Yeah,
Right,
speed.
teeth.
He'd probably be giggling at you the whole time.
right.
How many arrows?
Yeah, I'm a bow guy. I could probably.
Well, are you guys good with bow and arrows? And let's say 2 arrows. You've got the
Okay.
one loaded and
Okay.
you've got one in your quiver.
2 arrows, maybe not, because that's a pretty. I mean, I'm not an expert with a bow. Haven't shot a bow in a long time, So it might take more than 2 arrows to kill.
You are
Stripe the
5 feet
gremlin.
taller than him. Keep that in mind.
Yes.
So he's gonna come at you like a spider monkey. Here's what, and I gotta wait 3 seconds. I think the strategy for me would be, I think so far I've taken 0 damage, but at this point think I can beat him, but I'm not gonna come away unscathed. He's gonna scratch me up, but my goal would be knock him down with the bow as a bludgeoning object and try to step on his chest, and then you can get an arrow ready and not gonna miss from this distance. That's how I would do it.
Yeah. Well, if you
But
think
he's gonna
back
scratch me
to
up.
the movie Gremlins, though they are a little challenging to fight one-on-one, even
Unless
for
you're Billy
humans.
Pelter's mother.
I
Yeah.
mean, the mom picks that one up and just puts it right in the
She
microwave,
killed
Jacob.
4, yeah.
I don't
But that
even know
wasn't
that
Stripe.
it's like scratching at her. She's just kind of doing what she wants to it. I don't know.
That's true.
Yeah.
But Stripe was more devious than any
He was
gremlin.
the most devious of them all.
He is.
He was
He's a
the
bad
ringleader. And
E.T.
what if he had some kind of
big.
flamethrower or something? Yeah.
Well,
Right.
we've gone down to size. Stripe is small, but he is ferocious. He's our first thing you guys have encountered that is vicious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to be
Like-
tore up a little bit. I'm going to come out on top, but he's going to scratch the shit out of me for sure.
I mean, Gizmo just wants to be friends with you and hang out. You know,
smash
Stripe
his
is
brains.
Yeah.
You gave me no choice.
I know. I feel bad about that.
I would make
one.
him my Palico if I could have.
Yeah, you
That's why I
can't.
would give
Yeah.
him the hammer.
Smash.
Yeah, help me kill Stripe. Let's go.
I'm gonna say I could take him on. I think I like the idea of bludgeoning him with the bow. You don't want to damage the bow though, but
True,
Sure.
true.
pin him down to the ground and fucking shoot an arrow into him.
Do it
Sure.
that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to keep him still. I think I would miss if I was just trying to at range pick him off. I would need to, immobilize him.
Absolutely, because he's so small too. I mean, he'd be a hard target to hit.
Yeah, that's true. So, yeah. I agree. But we could do it, I think.
Yeah.
You're both passing, but you're taking some injuries. Ding, ding.
Mm-hmm.
Stripe dead. Arrow between the brains next to his beloved, I guess, father who is smashed to pieces.
Yeah, I guess it's his dad, technically. I wish I would have made him my Palico now in hindsight, giving him the hammer and be like, Gizmo.
Yeah.
Stick with me.
Yeah. I'm sorry,
Right.
Gizmo.
The quest continues. Your hunt continues. We got another one
Right.
here. The Anaconda from Anaconda, but you've got a really, really long sword.
Oh.
Well, are we in its natural habitat in the Amazon River?
You're in it. It's Gladiator 2. You're in a coliseum. You guys are
open
across from each
coliseum.
other, 20 feet away. You've got your sword kind of
You're thinking
drawn.
a big
He's just on the
snake.
ground slithering.
If you
Whoa.
can get him with a sword before he grabs you up and freaking strangles you and wraps around you, I don't know. I mean, anacondas are pretty big from the movie Anaconda for sure. It's really a matter of you'd have to kill it before it reaches you, because once it grabs you, I mean, you're not getting out of
Game
that.
over.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I would need to re-see how much speed he has, but generally I think an Anaconda 20 feet away, he's got a kind of predictable movement pattern. I don't think there's a lot of lunging threat from an Anaconda, maybe. But if he grabs it, you're fucked. So I think maybe with 3 seconds, you get one swing on him.
I'm going to try to chop him in half.
Zweihander, get
One
that
swing.
head off. You
Yeah.
might be okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking
Yeah.
this hit the dirt immediately. Fucking bites
Crushed to
into
death.
your arm. It's game over.
Game
It
over.
would
Yeah.
be slow too. Just the crushing. So yeah, you'd have to get that one lethal blow, but with 3 seconds.
Otherwise,
you'd
I would try
be able
to,
position it.
Alternatively, I would try to speak parcel tongue to it and say,
Mhm.
and it'd be like,
Mm.
oh, okay, maybe this guy's
Oh,
cool. He
we're
understands
friends. I know you.
snake speak. And then I
Yeah.
could control him and he could be my pet.
Yeah, that would be
Mhm.
good. No, but I'm gonna say conservatively, I think adrenaline's pumping. It still just has regular snake skin defense. I think like a Zweihander, yeah, you could probably get it done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Watch your footing.
It'd be better to have like a battle axe or something for the real,
You guys.
get a real good chop.
You guys are killers. Ding ding. You're hunting that too. You're passing. Okay. We got another one we're moving on to here. The robotic Bruce the Shark, the actual animatronic itself, flailing around loose outside the water. If you had a tuba,
A tuba.
A tuba.
You can bash it with the tuba. Well, the thing is, with an animatronic Bruce the Shark, it's got pretty limited movement. I mean, if you've ever been to Orlando or to Universal and seen the shark, right? It kind of comes up, but it can't do that much. So I think you could kind of get your tuba, bash its brains in,
Yeah.
before it really does anything to you. So
Give it
I'm
the old
thinking, yes, I
gizmo.
could get it. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, and historically that shark didn't really work that well anyway, so it's probably in a bad
right, right.
order. You just shove the tuba in its mouth, like that's the only dangerous part anyway, and then you just wait
Yeah.
for the battery to run out or something. I
Are you
think that's
putting your
doable.
hands in the gills to try to like pull some of the wires out, hoping
Ooh.
that just like turns it off, I guess, or something maybe?
Yeah.
I'd be scared. I don't know. I don't know if I want to get caught in a mechanism. I would
I think I
analyze
could
it.
just bash it to bits with the
That'd
tuba
probably
before it
work.
did anything because it has
Yeah,
such
Well,
limited
now,
mobility.
he's flopping.
you guys think tubas are made out of?
Brass.
Tubas are
You
made
guys-
out of metal.
But it's not
Brass.
indestructible versus like a steel robot or whatever the hell Bruce was made out
A
of.
tuba's got it's pretty big. It's pretty big. It's got some heft to it, and you could really just bash it. I mean, you'd probably damage the tuba, but you could really just get a good bash in there.
Jacob, it would never sound the same again.
Right, right.
No. You'd want to, yeah, you wouldn't be able to use it afterwards
I would
for
just
tuba things.
slowly play every frequency of sound out of the tuba until I found one that resonated and harmonically neutralized the robot.
Sure. Yeah.
And one that buffed you and your party members.
Exactly, the hunting horn. I see. I think with the weird animatronic shark, I could figure it out with the tuba. Yeah.
Yeah. I ain't scared of no Bruce the Shark.
You guys aren't scared of a robot? I thought that would be the most horrifying one.
You picked the wrong robot, I think.
Well, if it was the Terminator, yeah.
Well, that's not real.
Terminator.
Gizmo's real.
I just keep thinking about the
Gizmo
fact
is
that they
real.
had to cut it out of the movie because it didn't function as intended. So
True.
I'm imagining it just kind of not being very
Yeah.
effective.
It's going to have very
Imagine
limited mobility.
Okay. You
I
guys
got
pass.
time.
All right, I'll be honest with you guys. This is the last one. You have almost made it to the end of the journey here.
Yeah.
One more monster to defeat, and Denzel Washington's either giving you the thumbs down or thumbs up. I can't remember what gets you out of there.
I believe it up, but yes.
Thumbs down means you get killed. Thumbs up means you get
That's fair.
spared.
I should have looked to
Yeah.
him for Gizmo, and like, what do you say? Do I do it?
You kill Gizmo? Yes, the crowd
Yo,
wants it.
Gizmo.
Oh my god.
Da-da-da-da-da. I'm sorry, my brother.
Yeah.
Quack, 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 quack.
He's just singing that. He's just singing that
Yeah.
song. He thinks it's a concert.
Ooh, da, doo.
I'm
Poor
sorry,
guy.
Gizmo.
I love you.
It's what the Emperor wants.
Yeah, like a
It
tear drips from my eye as I'm bashing his. I'm sorry, man.
Yeah.
Step on him. It's crushed under your boot heel. All right.
Yeah.
Final one here. Let's paint the scenario again. You're in a coliseum. It's empty. You're in the middle of the deserty little circle there, 20 feet away from you. The ref's standing there. He counts down. He says 3, 2, 1. Clock comes up 20 feet away. A xenomorph. And you are holding
shit.
a fully loaded machine gun.
Oh.
I think
Oh.
I'm dead, son, because you know what? Xenomorphs. I mean, if you've ever seen those movies, 1v1ing a xenomorph, you have one gun. I feel like I'm not killing that thing. By the time it closes its distance on me,
3
spits its acid
seconds.
blood at me, like, yeah.
Yeah. No, I think
Be a tricky
I'd be
one.
cooked. Especially with the 3-second limit. It's closing that 20 feet. It's already like 9-10 feet tall. It's very agile. Yeah, you're done for. The xenomorph's
Yeah.
gotcha, I think.
You're not just holding down full clip, just pow, 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 screaming right at this thing.
He's already
Well,
there before you have the 3 seconds. You can't even.
Yeah.
You don't even get to use
And
it.
you're shooting it, you damage it, all of a sudden acid blood squirting out of its body, that gets on you, you're already going to have some damage. Even if you were a space marine, it's hard to kill as 1v1 a xenomorph. I mean,
The
I'm not in shape,
organism.
you know, I'm not super jacked or anything. Like I'm just a normal guy.
Yeah, I haven't eaten any cornbread. I'm done. No, xenomorph is. Yeah, you're done. It's the perfect organism.
Maybe if I had a
Hey.
flamethrower.
The great equalizer. It's the
Yeah,
perfect,
the perfect
organism.
organism.
Greatest
Yeah,
movie
I think I
monster
would be
ever
cooked.
invented.
Maybe with a flamethrower, I could like cook it before it reached me, but I don't know.
Usually got to get them
They
out some
need
sort of
the-
airlock.
Yeah, you got to blow them out the airlock.
They gotta add flamethrowers to the Monster Hunter world. Unfortunately, all you have is a high-powered machine gun.
Dang it. Yeah, you could put
Yeah, I
like
don't think that's
plain
going to be
rounds
enough.
on it at least. But yeah, the xenomorph is where it stops.
Even a predator couldn't take a xenomorph 1v1.
No, and it took it took fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger, a perfect man, to like hunt an alien. Yeah, it just
Yeah.
goes to show you. I'm proud of you guys. That is self-awareness to say, yeah, I couldn't kill a xenomorph.
No,
Just
there's
as
no way.
Americans are overconfident, you know? I know my limits, and it stops at robotic shark.
Xenomorph.
Yeah. That's a
Is
great
it the
segment.
queen or is it just a drone, you know?
Just a drone, the lowest of the
Still
low
low.
life.
Yeah.
How do you guys? Okay, let me change this. It's a one face hugger. Could you kill one face hugger?
I think I could
Full
do
round
that.
of a
I
machine.
think one. Yeah, you'd have to get good aim because as long as it's not jumping on you and grabbing your face, you could even sort of
You just
stomp
do
on
this
it.
the whole time, Jacob.
That's true.
Yeah.
Just cover your
Get off my
mouth.
face.
One
Yeah.
hand face, one hand
And
gone.
just skittering around like a little crab.
Yeah, I'd be running
Um,
like I'm like a crazy person for the first 3 seconds to get distance on them.
Yeah.
And then once I,
Honestly,
yeah.
I would be more scared just with the knowledge of I know what that thing would do if it caught me versus the xenomorph's just gonna rip me up. I don't give a shit about that. I just don't want to explode from the inside.
Well, here's
Yeah.
well, the grim truth of that is you wake up, you're like, oh shit, did I get got? Luckily, you have a machine gun with you, and you could deal with that if
Right.
you had
You'd
to.
have to end it yourself.
Yeah.
Because once it grabs your face, I mean, we've seen how strong their little limbs are. There's
Oh,
no way you
yeah.
can pry it off. I mean, we've seen people try to do that, but once it's laying its egg down your throat, you're kind of a goner at that point.
Yeah.
Okay. Final restructuring then.
Okay.
The three of us, it's a hunting party.
Ah, yes.
Full machine guns, 1, 2, 3, were aimed at the xenomorph already. Could three of us kill one xenomorph?
I would think
I
3.
don't know.
I think yes.
Because they're so fast. They're so strong. Like their skin is strong. Maybe, yeah, if you can get enough bullets on it before it reaches you.
I think
But even if it's
two of us
slightly
would
damaged,
survive and one of us would get the little mouth for it.
But it would
Yeah.
die. Yes, it would die. But yeah, maybe
Yeah.
not full. We're not
Yeah.
all walking away, but I think the
I would
three
just
of us
kind
with
of,
machine
I would
guns could do it.
sacrifice you guys and kind of stand
Yeah.
further back and say, all right, you guys do most of the work. I'm going to stand back
I'm
here.
more effective at this range. Yeah.
You could only
Yeah.
kind of get it when it's slowed down attacking someone, right? Like that's kind of your best odds is like, well, good, it's planted for a second. Let me just light it up. Yeah.
Or, if it's running in a straight line because it doesn't know what a gun is. Like, you might just be able to be like, all right, just stand your ground,
Right.
guys. But it's still not great odds. I put it 50-50.
I would still say 50-50. Three of us versus one space alien. Not ET. ET, three of us with a gun. Fucking load that motherfucker up.
Yeah, he wouldn't have
Yeah.
a chance.
Yeah.
Nope,
All
that's
right.
good. I couldn't even kill the dog one from Alien 3 with a machine gun. No.
No. That would be
No.
extra fast.
Yeah.
So. All right, guys. Well, that was movie Monster Hunters, a nice little
Wow.
segment. Now we're going to move over back to the Monster Hunter talk, to our wrap up final thoughts here on the franchise, the new game, all of it, Monster Hunter, here on Normies Like Us. We're back here on Normies Like Us, talking Monster Hunter. We're wrapping up our final thoughts. We're laughing off pod at the idea of another Paul W.S. Anderson film. We're certainly going to see. Tell me the name one more time, Jacob.
In the Lost Lands.
Yeah.
Yep.
Boy.
Guess what's next up for March Madness?
Mike can announce
I
his
can't wait.
choice here.
Yep.
We will at the end, I'm sure, maybe announce somebody else's choice. I'm happy that I went first. I like this format, talking about stuff we love. I thought about doing this for a long time. It's not necessarily what I'd say is my favorite video game franchise. I'm never sure what that is, but again, it's the one that I've maybe put the most hours into. I like it quite a bit. It has a lot of the elements that I think video games should have, even if that is getting sanded off a little. I will say My favorite monsters. I do
Hmm.
like all the big ones in the franchises, like these Devil Joes or these things that are considered like the hardest. They call it the Angry Pickle. It's the only monster that doesn't get feebler the more you hurt it. It just gets more pissed and like
Dang.
Hmm.
gets stronger and kicks your ass. And then all of the armor it makes are wrestling themed for some reason. Like you get big champion belts out of its belly and stuff.
That's
I think
cool.
that's really cool. um, Kirans, which are these like electric unicorns, Gore Magalas, which are these like huge poison butterfly dragons. There's been so many cool, unique designs. Mike, do you have a favorite?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, there's some. Well, I don't want to spoil monsters from the main game, but I think Raydao has existed before. It's like a lightning dragon. That was a very cool one
Hmm.
that I've seen.
Hmm.
So I want to save the surprise for you, but there are some very cool ones in the game. I know like Rathalos was a famous one from back in the
Hmm.
day, like a really cool dragon.
The
Actually, I had a
flagship
Funko of
monster, you
it.
could kind of say, sort of the Pikachu of its version.
Yeah,
And then I'll do a quick shout out just back to the crossovers. Behemoth from Final Fantasy, that sort of purple,
yeah.
sort of like dog monster, Mike. The
Hmm.
only monster I've never been able to beat in the game because he does Nova Flare as his final, and it's like a field wiper. Like you just
Whoa,
cannot survive it. So.
that's I would want to fight him. I know we were talking. There's a little bit of a dilution with bringing in other franchises, but
Mm.
I was like a Devil May Cry person. Like I like that franchise a lot. So like, yeah, the gimmick of Dante and Devil May Cry, like I would be into that. So we'll see what happens with
Oh
this
yeah.
game. Um, and I know they do a lot of free DLC with Monster Hunters, so that's like something to
Mm-hmm.
look forward to. Like there will be more monsters down the road than are even what is in the game now. So that's exciting too.
They're locking a lot of the cosmetics behind microtransactions. That's pretty recent to the last
Hmm.
PlayStation entry as well. That's seeming like a big Capcom complaint, I guess. I Again, the standing for that company to me, Mega Man is maybe my brother's favorite franchise. I'm kind of shocked and surprised they've never done anything else with that lately. I'd love to see them
Yeah.
continue that or do something in the way that they've done with Final Fantasy, with Resident Evil, where they
Hmm.
have had so much success, Mike, and I know you're a fan of these as well, of those Resident Evil re-entries where they just go, this game's perfect. Why don't we make it just a little better? And the fans go like, "Yay, you did what I wanted. This is my favorite."
Yeah, I don't know why Mega Man doesn't get any kind of shine in that. Like they're doing Onimusha again.
Hmm.
Yeah, I knew Onimusha anyway, so it's like, yeah, Mega Man deserves some love. Don't just put his helmet in Dead Rising games. Um,
Yes.
you know. But
I'll say
other than that, oh, go ahead.
my favorite monster from Monster Hunter is the one I watched Mike fight last night, which I will call Ron Paulo. Ron
Oh yeah,
Paulo
yeah,
2012.
yeah. It's
Oh
like
no.
Um,
a little.
I don't know anything about it, but his name is Ron Paulo.
It's yeah, Polo or something. Yeah, it's like a poison bird lizard thing. But that's like a
Sure.
Yeah,
not a major one, but that one was interesting.
no,
But
but I did see Mike fight some different monsters, and they had some cool designs and stuff. So
One of
yeah,
my favorite things about playing this game is fighting a new monster that I think looks really cool, teaming up with my friends and losing. I don't know if you had this experience, Mike, but that feeling immediately of fuck. Well, hold on, we can do that again. And then just
yeah.
jumping back in and re strategizing, coming up with a new plan, trying a new strategy. It's a great feeling.
No, it's
I like
awesome. And
that.
then, I'm learning terminology like carding when you die. Oh, I carded. So I'm learning new words about the community. Um, yeah, and
You're
it's
falling in love
just
with the guild lady per all the memes, I'm sure.
yes,
Mhm.
we like Gemma. She is in the artwork for this episode. Um, and it's just been again, I have 24 hours in it, so I'm hooked on it. I think it's great.
Wow.
My other the other guy who I play with, he has all Kung Pao quotes as his stuff. So those are very silly too. A tiny
We
net.
trained him wrong on purpose.
When he dies, yeah, we train him wrong on purpose as a joke. It's that kind of stuff.
Great.
So, but
That's
my
funny.
thing is, I don't make any armor that looks like the monsters because it doesn't look like Furiosa. So then I just have very
Wow.
basic armor that I'm leveling up in high rank, and I'm always dying, and they're like, "Yeah, you need to make armor," and I refuse because I need to cosplay as Furiosa.
I need to look like Furiosa.
Yeah.
Something they stole pretty recently from, well, I know Cyberpunk does it as well. I think Red Dead was maybe the first time I ever saw this, is called layered armor, which
Mm.
are these outfits where you can put on whatever you want, but then you put on a base template over top to go, well, this is what I really want to look like.
Yeah, like
Um,
transmog. A lot of games
yes,
have that where you can have your aesthetic armor that doesn't have any
yes.
stats, and you have your statted armor that so you can make yourself look how for fashion purposes, because you want to look nice and fashionable in the
And
video
And
game.
I'm
what the
on. I have a
subreddit and
brand.
community, well, and you do, Mike. You've got a whole character you're staying true to. But the community and naming for this, Jacob, has always been fashion hunters. If you go to the fashion hunter subreddit, it's people who are obsessed with not grinding out
Of
materials,
course.
things like that, but min maxing. I did this layout, which gives me these stat boosts. If you wear this item too, you get unlimited running, unlimited diving, unlimited stamina, unlimited, and all the perks that stack up because of your equipment loadouts. It's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, that's a big thing. We have Fashion Souls and FromSoft as well. So
Right. You got to look your best. Yeah, that's something like Cyberpunk had, where you could have your clothes that give you good stats, and then you could have your actual what you want to look like. And I
Your
always like that
filthy
option
hoodie.
in a video game. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they have that in high rank. Somebody messaged me, so I think I will be making armor. But that is a big draw of this: is the armor looks like the monster that you kind of defeated, and that's like a big part of it too. Is
Right.
getting cool
That's
sets.
very
So
cool.
I do want to confirm Monster Hunter World sold 21 million units, and it's the single best-selling Capcom game ever.
Wow.
Monster Hunter Rise, 16.7 million, is their second most high-selling game, and then Resident Evil 2 Remake, 15 million. So Monster Hunter's got the top 2 out of 3 spots for Capcom, which again, it feels kind of obscure, but maybe with this game's popularity, it's gonna become one of the heavy hitters of pop culture. Maybe Game of the Year.
Back to that. That would be wild. It's back to that core question we asked at the top. Is this a popular franchise? Again, I'm happy to do an episode on it because it's something I've always liked. I've never really found that many people to talk to it about, so I hope we have raised some awareness here to a property that maybe needs it, maybe doesn't. Time will tell. I don't think we'll ever get another movie.
Oh,
Yeah. Again, for me, when I kind of first heard about it was Monster Hunter World. Again, our friend X Kaito would just play hundreds of hours of that game, got really into it, I think in like 2018. And at that point, I was like, I kind of wanted to start playing it, but it's another big game that I don't need to invest time into when I've got so much other games and things going on.
Yep.
But I am unfortunately going to force Mike to stop playing that and come back to Marvel Rivals where he belongs. But
So this is it. This is our last shot. I only got a couple hours in. Mike only got a full day's worth, but we're done, Normies, because
got the high
Jacob
rank.
says.
yes,
Back
I
to
will
Marvel.
be destroying your copy of your game so that you can't play it anymore with a secret computer virus.
Oh, dang. Okay.
Yeah.
I won't open any of your emails, but yeah, it seems to be a big hit right now, and there are some PC issues here or there, but I'm a fan of Monster Hunter now, Colin. So thanks for picking this episode. I'm locked in.
Love to hear it. And we should say, Jacob kept making the Pokemon jokes this whole time. People do a lot of fan art of what if Charizard was the thing you were hunting, and like Ash in, like, I'm not kidding, like Pikachu armor. Mike, you've done this entire episode with a 3D printed Cubone skull in front of you for our viewers at
Yes.
home, which looks very Monster Hunter coded, just sort of a little bone piece of a monster, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah,
Oh.
I was like, I need a prop. I love this franchise, so that's the closest thing I had at hand. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
check
little
us
bone
out.
skull for your Palico. Sorry, it kind of reminds me of Cubone.
It does. And check us out on YouTube to see that. You did a great work with that. I assume that is 3D printed.
Mm-hmm. Yep, 3D
Very
printer.
cool.
Thank
Very
you.
cool.
Yeah,
All
and I
right.
guess Pal World would be the version of Pikachu or Pokemon where you're not hunting really, but you are sort of enslaving your Pokemon and forcing them to work for you and putting them to work in the mines and that kind of thing. So
It's that S word that I don't like.
Oh man,
hey, look, you got to do something with these little pals.
Yeah, Pikachu, this tower's not going to build itself. So if I were you, I'd get to work and pick up that machine gun because that xenomorph looks hungry.
yeah, yeah. Say his words. Our
Say his
lore,
words.
because we always skip the cutscenes, is like we're not altruistic. Like we do not care about the people and their problems. We're just addicted to killing monsters, and like The rest
Yeah.
is a side effect.
Well, I'm playing Eric Trump, dude. That's my character. Did I tell you guys that? I'm a big game hunter.
Nice.
Yeah. It is funny to think about like the Witcher crossover and stuff because the Witcher, I mean, Geralt literally is a monster hunter. That's what Witchers are in the world of the Witcher. His occupation, he goes from town to town and takes basically contracts to kill monsters. And that's
Mhm.
called being a Witcher. So it's very similar. It's just a more European version versus a Japanese culturally inspired type of thing.
It made a lot more sense than the Pizza Hut crossover, where you just got a big pizza cutter as your sword. So
Whoa. Okay,
Yeah.
that's cool. Well, speaking of pizza, I want to touch briefly the food. The cooking system is you cook your own meals now in this one, and the food cutscenes are really great, but some of them are weird. And now, like I've only had cheese and fish, and so you only can have mackerel with cheese, and I'm like, this seems like the worst meal ever. But now in the group, we're like, yo, don't forget your cheese fish, but like to remind each other to cook. So cheese fish has become a thing for us.
that's right.
But yeah,
I
That's
would eat
cool, dude.
I would eat cooked Palico. How about that?
no, that's something that
Roasted
What
Palico.
a
Chewbacca would do.
horrible thing to say. Yeah. And they look at you all
They're
sad.
eating the
Orcs.
Palicos. They're eating the
They're eating the
Palicos in the
Palicos.
Monster Hunter.
Coming into the islands, hunting the monsters, and eating the palicos. I've seen them do it.
It's absolutely wild out there, folks. It's so wild. It's unbelievably wild.
So
Wildest place you've ever seen. But anyway, we're the wildest hosts you've ever heard of.
That's right. So
Easily.
March Madness, episode 1,
Yeah.
down the drain. We
Duke.
haven't talked, what we're doing next week. We haven't really talked about if it's going to be my episode or Mike's episode. So maybe we'll.
I think I could lock it in. I've been thinking about it for a couple days and I'm pretty settled. It's nothing crazy.
Hit
It's,
us. Announce it, buddy.
All right. The announcement is the long cut of Rebel Moon. No, I'm kidding. I just
Wow.
want to do
In the
classic-
Lost Land.
Yeah. No, I'm going back to another big monster that's getting hunted, but I'm going to do Shin Godzilla. I want to just talk
Wow.
about Shin Godzilla because it's a great
Godzilla
movie.
from Fortnite?
Godzilla from Fortnite, correct. So
I've heard of him.
2016
I've been him.
Evangelion Godzilla.
And that is the most recent Godzilla movie after -1, of course. So it's the most recent sense from before -1.
Correct. Yeah. So that's the director of Evangelion, whose name I'm blanking
Right,
on, even
right.
though I'm a super fan. Oh my goodness.
Ano.
Yeah,
Hideki
Anno.
Anno's Godzilla. Yeah, I just like it. I want to talk about it,
Nice.
so that's it.
All right, so we're doing next week. We're doing
Forward to that.
Shin Godzilla. My week will be a surprise, but I'll
Ooh.
reveal that next week, I guess.
All right, great.
Shin Kamen Rider. We're just doing all the Shin movies. All right.
Shin
Yeah.
Gamera? Yep.
Mm.
All right.
Yeah, so that's Monster Hunter.
It was. Make sure to check us out at Normies_like_us on all social media. Rate, review, subscribe. Tell us what your favorite monster is, what your favorite game is, how far you got in that game. How did you kill Gizmo? Did you use the hammer to smash him up? We want to hear all that. And it helps out the podcast. Like we said, check out the YouTube as well. Get ready for Mike's episode next week. And otherwise, we have been your hosts. This is Palico Colin.
Micah Coe.
And this is Monster Hunter Jacob, because of course I know all the characters and things in that world.
Me, Steve Monster Hunter.
That's right.
Yeah. Remember, I'm a
All
bow
right.
guy.
That's right.
All right.
Catch you Ron Polos later.
Bye.
care. Bye.
Meow.